Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the last class, 19. And congratulations to those who have made it from the beginning to the end. And I hope there is somebody out there besides myself who can say that is the case. So I'm happy to welcome you all once again, of course, on behalf of the Buddhist Association of the United States, the Chuanyan Monastery in Carmel, New York, and the Wuju Memorial Library, along with my wonderful librarian friends, Kaiti and Diane. We're happy to come to you one more time for Summer Pali. Of course, it's not feeling like summer any longer around here in the New York area. I have my flannel shirt on today. It's starting to feel like fall. And so, with that autumnal quality, we wrap up this section of Pali instruction. And we are, of course, still in our Gare and Karuna Tilaka New Course in Reading Pali textbook in Lesson 5. And we hope to finish the initial readings this very class. And so, without any further ado, I will share my screen. And we've been looking at the Vaseta Sutta, which, as you can see, occurs not only in the Majjhima Nikaya, well, you can see that, but I can tell you it also occurs in the Sutta Nipata. And so we began to look at it. I think for time reasons, we'll sort of skip towards the end. It's very much the same, except for different qualities, different words. I very much like that we have Yoda, which is a warrior, which of course is the word borrowed for the famous Star Wars character Yoda. Not a coincidence, except that I think for that Yoda, they decided not to use the aspirated D. Maybe no one would know what that meant. So we have the warrior. So of course one that lives with arrow making and archery, that person is not a Brahmin. That person is a warrior. And maybe I'll skip down to this one. It's interesting. Yohi kochi manu sesu gamang ratang chabunjati evang vaseta janahi raja eso na brahmano. And so we talked a little bit about how this construction, yohi kochi, together with the locative, so it has the sense of whoever amongst people. And then we can go right to our verb, bunjati, which I think we might have had way back in Pali Primer with the sense of to eat. But that is not the sense here, because it also could be to partake of, to enjoy. And it also, in this context, seems to have the sense of to rule. And what does this person rule? Gamang ratang cha. So, of course, this cha is, these two are together with the cha, and this palatal N has been created because of this one, ratang, which would be, these are two accusatives of the verb, but since it's being connected with the cha, it moves to this nasal for ease of pronunciation. And so this word is interesting because it's the Pali word of, if I can type it right, no, Rashtra. But I think this T is also retroflexed. So Rashtra, which is a kingdom perhaps, or a realm, or even a country, and of course there's a Maharashtra in India today, becomes, because this kind of consonant combo doesn't work well in Pali, it becomes smoothed out to this double retroflex, the T and the TH, Ratta instead of Rashtra. So one who rules country and village. A Gama is a village. I'll take this out. He, thus, know this, janahi. So this is our verb janati, to know, in the imperative, second person. Know this, vaseta. He is, of course, addressed in the locative. Rajo eso. He is a king. Raja, that's our nominative of the king, Raja. Na Brahmano. He is not a Brahmin. And so now we move on to these sort of very, at least for me personally, very, very striking verses, very powerful set of verses here. Nachahang brahmanang brumi yonijang mati sangbhavang bovadi nama sohoti sache hoti sakinchano akinchanang anandanang tang ahang brumi brahmanang. Words with extreme power. So how do we explain this? So the cha here is, of course, just continuing this row, and it's being stuck together with the I, ahang, I. So I, na brumi. So brumi is to say or call, first person, singular. I do not call a Brahman, Brahmanang, accusative. And we have these two interesting words, yonijang. So a yoni is a womb, for the place from whence the baby comes. And ja is the suffix which means born of. So born of a womb. And then we have mati sangbhavang, which has the sense of having a mother as an origin, born of a mother, born of a womb, or born of a mother. So in other words, just by being born. And then we have this very almost funny word, bovadi. And so we had this vocative, bo, I think, which we talked about how it's a little tricky to translate. It means sir in a sort of mundane sense. It's not a word that a follower of the Buddha would use, but rather perhaps a Brahmin or somebody who accepts the Buddha as perhaps a person of significance, but not like a religious leader for them. And so a bo and vadi means say, a sayer. So a bovadi or bovading is a sort of like literally a sir sayer, one who just says yes sir, like a yes man. So I noticed that Venerable Bodhi translates this as a pompous speaker, a bovadying, one who just goes around saying yes, of course, yes. And nama, which looks very much like name. In this case, it's not related to nama rupa, name and form, but it just simply has this indeclinable sense of calls, or is named. So, bovadi nama sohoti. He's called a pompous speaker. He's called a sir sayer. If such a, so here we have a discrepancy of readings. It could be possibly, in one could make grammatical sense, if one read it as sa, he, and ve is the emphatic, something like indeed. But I'm pretty certain it makes much more sense, and I think people generally choose such a, if, so he is a bovadin, if he is sakinchano, so kinchano, with worldly attachment. So he is just a pompous speaker if he is one of worldly attachment. And then the follow-up verse, akinchanang anadanang tam ahang brumi brahmanang. So tongue is referring to this person, a different person, I guess. Hey, he, tongue, he, ahang, I, brumi, say, or call. And this person, which is being described as tongue, is also being described as akinchanang and anadanang. So akinchanang is the opposite of sakinchano. So without attachment, and adanang, not grasping, related to the verb adadati, taking, not grasping. It's he who I call a Brahman. By the way, does anyone like to explain quickly, for extra credit, why in the second line we have the adjective in the nominative, sakinchano, but in the third one we have the two in the accusative? Does anyone like to very quickly explain and tell us why the grammar is this way? Yes, we have Fiakra to enlighten us. Good evening.
Yes, because in the first sentence, it's just a simple verb to be with a predicate, whereas in the second one, the akinchanang anadanang is the object of the verb of the verb brumi.
Exactly right. Right, very good. Thank you. So, yes, just as he said, in this second line, notice that when something is equated with the verb to be, what's predicated, what's on the other side of the verb to be, is also in the nominative. We had this question in the last class. It doesn't take an accusative object. So if he is one of worldly attachment, if he is a worldly attacher, but here in the third line, as he just said, this is the object. Brumi takes tongue, which is an accusative, and these two of describing the tongue. So they are both in the accusative because they are objects of this verb, I call. So exactly right. And so finally we have here, Sabha Sangyojanang Chetva Yove na paritasati Sangatigang Visangyutang Tangahang Brumi Brahmanang. So a sangyojana is a fetter. And there are 10 traditionally that one needs to eliminate, to cut off. So the verb chindati, to cut, in the absolutive is chetva. So having cut off sabha, all fetters. Yo ve na. So here we have our ve, our one who, relative pronoun, truly or indeed, na paritasati, is not worried, not concerned. And then furthermore, of course, this is now once again the object of the verb, sangatikang, having gone beyond all attachment. This is ati plus ga, which is gachati, and sang, so it would have sangha would be the attachment. So having gone beyond all attachment, and visangyutang. So we've been looking at Sangyutta Nikaya, which means connected discourses, discourses that are connected by a theme. So the V would be a negator here. So without bonds, without connections this way, without bonds is best. Tang ahang brumi brahmanang. It is he I call a Brahman. And so I hope this explains this wonderful set of verses. Very important to know about. We have a question from Pat. Hi, Pat.
Hello. I just wanted to ask quickly, is it a coincidence that he's using this talking about Bo Vadis when this Vaseta just called him Bo.
Well, I would say it's not a coincidence because we know, as we spoke about, that Brahmins like Vaseta addressed the Buddha as Bo Gautama. I mean, it's hard to say exactly how much to read into it, but I think what he's basically saying is that, you have to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. You have to do what you teach. I'm not exactly sure. Does that sort of begin to answer your question?
Yeah, it's just interesting to me. It seems like there's so much like information in these little forms of address and the verb
Yes,
forms and all. It seems like it's a deep topic, but it's
very
interesting.
much so. And I think bovading is a very challenging word to translate
Uh-huh.
into English. It's hard to capture the meaning concisely.
Uh-huh.
It's almost
Thank you.
requiring a footnote. You're welcome. Okay, if there are no more questions, we can move on to Dhammapada. Our last look, we've been talking a lot about the idea of appamada and pamada, such important words in Buddhism, heedfulness or diligence and a lack of it. And so we have here, this is from the chapter on appamada, appamadavago, the chapter on heedfulness or diligence. Appamadena magava devanang setatang gato appamadang pasang santi pamado garahito sada. So here, magava is a nominative, vant kind of word. The two here refers to the grammatical section that will explain or the full declension of vant and mant. So don't think that this is somehow a feminine long a noun. It is vant. And Magava seems to be a type of a specific god and perhaps synonymous with Indra. So it's sort of like a head god, a leading god. And he's, well, Appamadena, we recognize it as the instrumental by or with heedfulness. And then he's described as gato. So this is the nominative, past participle, matching Magava because that is a masculine nominative. He is gone, setatang devanang. So seta, just the word seta means something like excellent, really great. And then it's put together with this suffix, which does make it a abstract noun, or a noun at least, excellence, supremacy, and it's in the accusative because it's the object of gato, gone to excellence, devanang, of or amongst the devas, right? Genitive plural probably. So through Magava, through heedfulness, has gone to supremacy amongst the devas or of the devas. Amongst sounds a little locative, but it is certainly dative, genitive, plural. Appamadang pasangsati. So here, this plural, is referring to the devas. They praise appamada in the accusative. They praise heedfulness. And here is the negative, which is the not negated form. Always a little bit challenging for me to get straight in my mind. In the nominative, pamado, heedlessness, sada, always. And there's a sort of implied verb, hoti, is garahito, which we've had before, condemned. Heedlessness is always condemned. And so that's number 30. We can move on. Always feel free to ask a question if there's something unclear or if maybe I didn't explain it well. So we can move on to another chapter in the flower chapter. So pupa is a flower. And it is a neuter noun. Pupang would be the neuter nominative, which is what we see here. So here we have yatapi ruchirang pupang vanavantang agantakang evang subhasita vacha apalla hoti akubato. So I would take yatapi together as like, or just like. And just like what? The nominative, a flower, a pupang, nominative neuter, which is being described with this adjective, matching, of course, in the nominative neuter, ruchirang, beautiful, right? Or lovely. And it's also described with two more adjectives, vana vantang and agandakang. And so vana is a word that could take a lot of different meanings, actually. Even varna, which is related to the caste system of India, but has nothing to do with that here. So here, vana can mean color, and it also can mean, I think, beauty. But vant, as we know now, has that connotation of making an adjective or a noun with the sense of possessing what precedes it. And so vanavant would be possessing color, or perhaps even possessing beauty. Now I have to say I was a little bit puzzled for a moment here on this very word, and perhaps you were too, because we know that this adjective is a vant adjective in the neuter nominative, right? Because that's what pupang is. But vanavatang looks a lot like an accusative. And it would seem to be that it should be something like vanavat, vanavat, vanavang, maybe vanavang would be the neuter nominative. Let me look at that for a second. I'm looking now on page 69. Vanavang would be the normal neuter nominative, which you can see silavang as a neuter, because this, as an adjective, it has to match what it's describing. So these vants have to match in gender. But in fact, this is an alternative version of the neuter nominative, and I had to actually look it up in a grammar book to confirm that. And so I looked up at this very important grammar book, which I highly recommend to everyone, named Duracell. And here is this super giant, if you can see on my screen, declension of gunava. And so here we have gunava in the nominative, and gunavati, we talked about the vati in the feminine, and here, as I spoke about, we would expect gunavang as the normal neuter nominative, but here notice that we're giving this alternative, gunavantang. And so that is a possibility. And so again, just to reiterate this important resource for you, I'll turn back to the page 1, and you can all find this freely online. This is called A Practical Grammar of the Pali Language by Charles Duracell. And there are several editions. He lived a long time ago. I think this book was first published in something like 1907. I believe he was a Frenchman. And it's a great resource for the intricacies of Pali grammar now that you are all becoming Pali grammarians to a certain degree. And so coming back to our text, vanavatang is a neuter nominative vant, and I believe it's taking this alternate form to sort of add a syllable to match the meter correctly. And then we have agandakang. So ganda is scent or smell, and the ka suffix is making it an adjective, gandaka, and it's negated, so without smell, and it's also, of course, neuter, so it means without scent. So putting these first two lines together, just like a beautiful flower, possessing color but without scent. I've put the but in there, but it's not in the Pali. Let me finish this verse and then I'll take the question. Evang subhasita vacha apala hoti akubato. So thus, a vacha, which is a word, or perhaps an utterance, or even maybe a speech, but maybe a word. Subhasita, well spoken. So this su has the sense of good or excellent or well. Thus, a word well spoken, apala. So vacha is feminine, I think, and so apala is matching it, is fruitless, akubato. And so this is a little bit complicated. You might have wondered, what is this kubato thing doing here? I'll explain it quickly. And so the whole story is that we know a lot of the story. There's the root, kur. And from this root, we get the very common verb karoti, to make, to create, to do. We've had this a lot. Now there's another stem form of this verb, which is this kub thing. And so there is a verb form of karoti, which would be kubati. And so if we wanted to make kubati into a present participle, we would make kubanto, one doing, right? One making. But this is not the nominative. This is the genitive. This is really the dative. So the dative of kubanto is kubato, as we can see in our present participle declension table in this very chapter. So that's kubato, and it's being negated. So this is how we get a kubato. So for one not doing, or one who does not act. So this verse again, just like a beautiful flower, full of color or possessing color, agandakang, without scent. Thus, a well-spoken word is fruitless for one not acting or one not doing. So that's akubato. Okay, I'll take the question now. Huelin, are you there? You've put your hand up. Yes?
Yes, I was going through the word vana. You
Yes.
mentioned that it's a neuter now?
Vana? No, I didn't. I mentioned pupang is. Vana, I think, is nominative in itself, but it's part of vana vant.
Okay.
Vana vant. It's an adjective, vana vant, in describing pupang, so it is neuter. Does that answer your question?
Yes, because vana itself is masculine, so I just bit stumped. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ken? Oh, sorry. Ken, are you there?
I have a question about vacha. Isn't
Yes.
that plural?
I don't think so. Isn't it? I thought it was a feminine
Because the
noun.
dictionary gives gives it as the vacho,
Really? Okay. I'll have
unless
to
I'm
look it
looking at
up.
the wrong word.
I have to say I'm not 100% sure. I thought it was a singular.
Yeah, it
And it's
has on page 197 in the book, vacho, speech, word.
vacho. Let me look it up quickly. Hmm.
Oh, you know what I think?
Vacha. Here on my screen, it's coming up as feminine, as I've
Yeah, you
said.
know what it is? It's that long A got me again.
Spelling mistake.
Vacho without a long A
So
means speech or word.
vacha with two long A's is a feminine word meaning word.
You got it. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Good for asking. Okay. Maybe we'll move on. Actually, maybe we can have a volunteer for the second one, 52, because it's very similar. Okay, good. Christopher.
52. Yatapi ruchigam pupam vanatam sagandakam evam subhasita vacha sapala hoti sakubato.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's very similar. So just like a beautiful or lovely flower, possessing color, something possessing color and with fragrance.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
thus.
thus well-spoken speech is fruitful for sakuba. So what was the kubato again? It was the
Yeah.
for one who does act.
Yes, for one who acts. So very good. Can you explain for me one more time what grammatically is sakubato?
Sakubato. So this is a dative, and the sa is with, I guess.
Yes.
Kubato is from karoti or kubati.
Right. Present participle.
A doer, one who acts.
Right. It has a little bit of a reflexive sense, this form of karoti kubati. So one who does
One who
himself.
does. For one who does himself.
That kind of feel, that would be the reflexive sense of the verb. Right. And it's, as you've said, the dative present participle form of kubati, which is that reflexive sense of karoti. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Wow, we're moving quickly. I was worried about running out of time. Okay, we move on to one more. The balavago. So a bala, as opposed to a bulla with a short A, mind your long marks. A bulla, or the word bulla with no long mark, means strength or power. But with a long mark, it has a completely different meaning, which can be two. One is bala could be a child, or a bala could be a fool, a foolish person, which seems to me a bit related, right? Have you ever had somebody say to you, don't act like such a child? Don't act foolish. That's a bala. It's a sort of very interesting kind of confluence which we don't have in English. I find it very interesting. And so this whole section is about the fool, we might say. Diga jagarato rati, digang santasa yojanang, digo balanang sangsaro, sadamang avijanatang. Okay, so this is all based on the word diga, we can say, which is, I think we know, means long. But notice how it's being declined in 3 different ways in this one verse. We have diga, we have digang, and we have digo. And so we notice that diga is a adjective, I would guess. Maybe one could say in a certain sense it could have an adverbial sense. So jagarato is another dative present participle. So maybe I'll write this out just so we're all clear about this. There's the verb, I think it's jagarati, to watch, to be alert. And then there's would be the present participle, jagaranto. I would notice that unt, so that's watching or being awake even. And this is the dative, so this n drops out. Jagarato. So the subject of the sentence is rati. So the night is rati, is long, and so rati is a feminine noun, and so it's matching with diga as a long a noun, feminine. The night is long for one who is watchful. I think it's also can take the sense of for one who is awake, in the meaning that if you can't sleep, night seems really long. Just lying there in the dark. And then so the second part, digang santasa yojanang. So a yojana, which is a neuter noun, is a unit of measure which doesn't seem to have a very precise, understandable length, at least not that I can discern, but it's pretty far. It's probably something like 12 kilometers, or 7 or 8 miles. I don't really know. I'm not sure if anyone really knows, but we see this unit of mileage or kilometer kind of unit, fair amount in the Pali Canon. So a yojana is long. It seems long. It's digang. So notice that this is matching in the accusative, neuter, nominative. And then we have this dative, santasa, for someone who is tired. So if you have to walk, if you're tired and you have to walk 12 kilometers, it would seem extremely far, right? And now we get to maybe a little more interesting. Digo balanang sangsaro. So sangsara, which is a word I'm sure we all know, at least by hearing it, is based on the verb sarati, to flow on. But sangsara has this nominative sense of this very sangsara. It's very hard to translate, usually not even translated. So sangsara is masculine. It's matching here in our masculine digo. Sangsara is long for fools, right? Balanang. That would be our dative plural. And then we have sadhamang avijanantang. Knowing. So this is another present participle dative. Avijanatang. Sorry, hard for me to pronounce that for some reason. So we have vijanati. I'll write this out for us. Vijanati. I think this is actually a typo in our book in the vocabulary list. This verb, based on janati, to know, we've had this a lot, like the root nya, janati, and then there's vijanati, related to pajanati, and then we would have vijananto, would be knowing, and then the dative is this form, and it's with sadamang, the good way. So for one understanding, it's negated, not understanding the good Dhamma. So that is number 60. Maybe we could have another person give us their translation of 60. It's a little tricky to put it all together. Is there anyone who would like to volunteer to give us their translation, their work for number 60? Okay, we have Bonita, good.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi.
Yeah. Diga jagarato ratti, digang santas yojanang, digo balanang sansaro, saddamam avijanatam. So my translation is, long is the night for one who is wakeful. Long is the journey for one who is tired. For one who thinks and acts in ignorance, long is the cycle of births and deaths. That's
Okay.
how I translate it.
It's a little free, but I understand you. I think you've captured the grammar very well. Excellent. Yeah. So you've reversed the order there, but I think it's
because
good.
I thought if you're ignorant, that's the result would be.
Right. You're quite right. I agree with you. Very nice. I like how you've done it.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll also read you the great K.R. Norman's super literal translation, and you'll see he even translates samsara. Long is the night for one who is awake. Long is a yojana for one who is weary. Notice he doesn't even try to translate that one. Long is journeying on for fools who do not know the true doctrine. So fools, balanang, who do not know, these words are actually going together as datives. Fools not knowing, sadamang, he has the true doctrine. Okay, good. If there's anyone else who'd like to ask a question or offer a translation of these verses, you can feel free. Okay. Huilin?
Oh, hi. Okay. I translated it as, long is the night for one who is wakeful. Long is a league for one tired. Long is the round of birth and death for fools who know not the true Dhamma.
Okay, good. How long is a league?
No idea.
That's not I've heard that word, but I don't know how far that is, how long that is. But I think I've seen that translated that way. Maybe one day I'll figure out what a league means, and then I'll know what a yojana is. But thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And I think we have Pat too.
I just wanted to say that league is a great translation for yojana precisely because we're not sure what either one means.
Is that right? Well, so we don't know what a league is?
I mean, it's one of those words that people know is like a long distance, but what exactly that distance is so it seems like a good translation for that reason.
Yeah. I know there's a book called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which can't be that long because 20,000 are a lot.
That's a fair point, yeah.
And anyway, it doesn't matter really for us today. Maybe some expert ancient Indian scholar will figure it out for us. But thank you. That's fine. Okay, good. Okay. So those were our final Dhammapada verses. And now we can move on to the last bit, which are the verses from the Khuddaka Nikaya, the Sutta Nipata, the famous Mangala Sutta, the Blessing Sutta, which is probably a text. This is, of course, just a portion. It's probably a text that many of you have heard. And it's a good one to know. It's a very nice one. And it's all based on this final, the fourth of the four in the stanza, Etang Mangalang Uttamang. So Mangalang is a blessing, and Etang is this, and then Uttama has the sense of supreme or greatest or highest. And so the refrain is always, this is the highest blessing. Of course, you might think, well, how could there be more than one because we have all these highest blessings. But of course, as we've seen from the Anguttara Nikaya, the Pali people don't really think that way. Like we talk about the one thing, it means a lot of different one things. And in the same way, I guess, there are lots of highest blessings, but of course, all very important. And so we have here asevana cha balanang panditanang cha sevana puja cha pujaniyanang etang mangalang uttamang. Okay, so asevana is related to the verb sevati, which has a literal sense of serve. And it seems to me that these words must be related, sevati and serve. It also could mean to like associate with. And this is the noun form, and it's negated. And so non-association or not associating. And balanang is genitive dative, but it seems to me here, a instrumental sense, with fools. So not associating with fools, right? And also serving panditanang, the association with the wise ones. So again, panditanang, notice here that this is an elided case ending is this, anang, plus cha, but they come together for kind of ease of speech, and so it becomes this nasal, just like we saw above. And so the association with wise ones, and then we have puja cha pujaniyanang. So puja, like sometimes in temple we can do Buddha puja, making offerings to the Buddha, or it could be veneration. And pujaniyanang has the sense of those who are worthy of puja. So veneration, the veneration of those worthy of veneration, or offerings to those worthy of offerings, or making offerings to those worthy of offerings. This is the highest blessing. Okay, good. Can we have a volunteer for the next one? Maybe somebody who hasn't spoke up yet. Yeah, like Sharosha and Jillian. Very good. So we'll take Sharosha.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi.
So let me read it first.
Please.
Bahu sancha si pancha vinayocha sukitito subhasita chaya vacha etam mangalamutam. So Bahu sancha si pancha. So I translated it as well learned and excelled in one's craft.
Mm-hmm.
Vinayo cha sukito, well trained and well spoken. Well trained in the moral discipline. And subhasita cha ya vacha, basically well spoken, one with good speech or well spoken. Eta Mangala Muttamam, that is the foremost blessing.
Okay. I would say that, notice how in the first line we have Bahu Sachancha and Sipancha. So this is of course Bahu Sachang and Sipang. And so those are, it seems to me, these are two different things, right? Learning, great learning, and crafts. But here we have the cha once. Because, so I would take these two as actually sort of adjectival in a way. So Vinaya is a discipline, right? We have the Vinaya, but Susikito, which is related to the verb sikati, to train.
Okay.
And so I would say it's one with well-trained discipline, or
I see,
well-trained discipline as a thing, not discipline and well-training. You see what I mean?
Yes, I see.
Right.
So so they're basically, they're talking about one thing as opposed to two separate.
I think so. So yeah, the susikito is an adjective.
Okay.
And it means well-trained. So that verb sikati, we have Sikhs actually in the world today, like a religious group, the trainees. And also this word comes to mean, there's the word seka, which is a trainee, which means that one who has entered upon the stream. So a sotapanna, and going forward, is known as a seka, a trainee. So it sounds a little unfair because it seems like all of us are training so much. But we're just what are called, well, I can't speak for you, but most of us are what are called putujana, which means like a worldling, not a trainee officially. So this is a long way of saying susikito, I think, means well-trained discipline.
In the Vinaya, and that's
yes, that's right. And tell me, why is it ya vacha grammatically with this long A's?
I did not understand what that ya was doing there.
So what is ya? What does that mean? It's a relative pronoun. So I would say one of well-spoken speech, because vacha is speech. It's a feminine, as we've just sort of figured out. And so it has going with the ya. So one who has well-spoken speech, it seems to me, would be the meaning here.
I see, because so it's a relative pronoun, so it
has to match in gender.
Yeah, it has to match, yes, okay.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we can have Jillian do for us the next one, please.
Hello, Stephen.
Hello, good morning.
Righty-ho, now yes. Dhanancha Dhammacharyacha Nyatakanacha Sangaho Anavajani Kamani Etang Mangala Mutangang.
Okay. So what does that mean?
Right. Well, we've got two. Oh, you can't see my pointer. We've got two nouns joined together at the beginning. Dana, generosity or giving.
Right.
Dharmacharya, not really chastity, but of living virtuously, a virtuous life.
Exactly. The virtuous conduct, maybe we can say.
Conduct, okay. Now, Nata Kanacha is, I had to look this up, hang on a tick.
It's a little obscure.
Yeah.
But it has the sense of, I think, relatives.
Relatives, that's right.
Right.
And I got caught on Sangaho, because of course I thought it was Sangha, but it turned out to be looking after.
Right. Looking after
Looking
one's
after relatives.
relatives. That's right. Taking care of one's relatives. That's what
So
that means.
that's great, because doing all these good things, Kamani is doing or working.
Well, what part of speech is kamani? Is it
It,
a participle or is it a noun?
it's a noun.
Right. What gender?
Neuter plural.
Neuter plural. So deeds or actions, and they're being described as anavajani.
Which means blameless.
Right, exactly. So blameless deeds.
Blameless deeds. This is the highest virtue.
Very good. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you.
Okay, good. And I think we have Hitit. Are you there? Yes. Hi, good morning. I can't hear you yet.
Oh,
Oh, now I hear you. Yes. Can you do for us Arati Virati Papa?
sure. Arati virati papa majjapana cha sanyamo appamado cha dhammesu etam mangala muttaman.
Mm-hmm.
So arati is abstention, abstinence.
Okay.
Virati, it's like V is like the modifier. Well, abstention again.
Right.
From papa is the evil.
Yes.
The
What
bad.
case is that? Papa.
Papa would be
It's the away from one, ablative.
Yeah, the ablative.
Right.
And then we have Majjapana Cha Sanyamo. I will start with Sanyamo, which will cause forgetfulness. Majjapana is
like intoxicants.
The intoxicants. Yeah. So the intoxicants which will make you forgetful. And Appamado cha dhammesu. Dhammesu is the locative. Appamado is the unforgetfulness, the heedfulness in the dhammas, in the doctrine. Etam mangala muttaman. This is the highest blessing.
Right. So sangyamo is something like restraint, holding back, refraining from intoxicants. Right? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I said like I was mistaken that with forgetful.
No, I don't think so. At least how it's defined for us here, I'm looking at our glossary because I wanted to check. It means control or restraint.
I see, thank you.
And then it would be with this ablative, I think. I'm not sure. Yeah, but the sense of it is refraining from intoxicants. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have Ken.
Okay. Garavo cha nivato cha kvantuti cha kanyuta kalana dhammasavanang etam mangala muttamang.
So it's katanyuta kalena dhamma savanang. Would you read it for us one more time?
Sure. Garavo cha nivato cha santuti cha kanuta.
No, it's katanyuta.
Oh, katanuta. Kalena dhammasavanam etam mangala mutamam.
Okay.
Reverence and modesty, contentment and gratitude, listening to the Dhamma at the right time. This is the highest blessing.
Good. Thank you. And Maybe I'll ask Diane if she would maybe take a shot of a just interesting word, katanyuta, if she knows how that word is put together.
Well, I will need help with that.
But it's just an interesting sort of etymology for katanyuta, but I thought you might know.
Well, the katan.
What's
That
kata?
isn't that from karoti?
Yes, it means done. It's like the past
Yes.
participle. And what's this new?
Well, I thought it was one who knows.
Exactly
So
right. So it has the
one-
sense of one who knows what
has
was
been
done. And
Yeah.
so the sense, as you've said, the person who knows what was done has gratitude because they understood the trouble one has gone, or how hard it was. You see
And
what I mean?
I've got on my notes here, I've got the TA circled because it's like the state of remembering what has been done.
Yes, it makes it an abstract noun, I think. The ta suffix. So it's kata, this new, which is that nya root, and the ta making it a noun. So one who knows what was done, or maybe just knowing what was done is not the one. So it means the word gratitude is a good way to capture that. Good. And Diane, would you like to do for us, I think, the very final verse?
I will probably need help with that too.
Okay.
Kanticha sovachasata samananancha dasanang kalena dhamma sakacha eta mangala mutamang. Patience and kind speech, or gentleness, or the seeing or visiting the recluses.
Right.
Discussion of the Dhamma at the right time. This is the highest blessing. I always have trouble with these. I think they're very difficult.
Well, this is a little tricky. So kanti is a noun that could function either as masculine or feminine. Here it's feminine with that long I, and I think that's for metrical reasons. Kanti cha sova chasata. And what's interesting about sova chasata, it's related to suvacha, this you, suvacha, well spoken, becomes sovacha for some reason. But what's interesting about sovacha, which can be translated, as you say, sort of kind or gentle speech, the commentary, which I looked at, explains it as one who receives advice well. And I guess the sense of that is that when one receives the advice or the teaching, one doesn't argue, and one is willing to hear it in a kindly way. And so that seems to actually go well with kanti, which is patience or forbearance. Right. Okay. Did you have any other questions about that, Diane?
No, but I'm wondering with the Mangala Mutamang, Mangalang, this is a compound word, right? Mangala Mutamang?
Yes, it is. It's Mangalang plus Uttamang.
So it's it's a sandhi.
Yes, it is. It's a sandhi.
So that's
this
why
neuter.
the M changes, correct?
Right. It's a neuter, so it would be Mangalang alone. But since it's coming up against this U, it changes to the labial M. Mangalam Uttamang, for ease of speech. I think if we had the Nigahita in the middle, it would be very hard to say.
Yeah.
Sorry?
So when you say it, do you say it Mangalam Uttamang?
Well, that's the word as I see it, Mangala Muttamang.
Because in the chanting group, we ended up saying Mangala Muttamang.
Well, Muttamang is not a word, but maybe that comes out better just for recitation. But you should know as a Pali person now that the word is Mangalang
Mangalang,
and Uttamang.
Uttamang. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And so at this point, I'll ask if there are any final questions. And this is really final questions. Okay. We have a question from Jillian.
Thank you, Stephen. I wonder if you would be kind enough to summarize briefly for us what we should at this stage know about abstract nouns.
Words that become a noun with a suffix, usually ta, but there are other ones too. I think we haven't covered it in a sort of official way. I would say that if you really want to dig into this concept, you would look in Duracell, because there's an excellent section in the back about prefixes and suffixes, and they're all well defined there.
Right. Do they tend to stick to a particular, do they change to a particular gender when the words become abstract?
They could change gender, I think.
Right.
Yes.
I'll look it up, thanks.
It's a big subject, and usually one sort of picks it up by context instead of taking it as a subject per se. I know Diane has spent a lot of time with Duracell, and maybe she'll have something to say, but that would be my recommendation, to look into Duracell, where he talks about this ta and other suffixes that can form nouns and abstract nouns. Okay?
Yep, thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Well, then I think we're pretty much done. There's just one or two announcements I'd like to make.
I do have something to add from someone who posted in YouTube. A yogana is how far a team of oxen can draw a cart in a day, about 7 miles.
Really? Okay. I guess it would depend on the ox but 7 miles. All right. I'll take it. It sounds plausible to me. Okay, thank you. And so I wanted to mention at this point that although we've come to the end of this group of classes, our wonderful librarian, Kaiti, who I hope is around, has spent a lot of time on the website putting up a lot more teachings of Pali. And so not only can you find mine, which are probably not so important to you now because you've heard them all, but we have a lot of teachings, and this is still a work in progress. So I'm showing you here on the Baus website. This is under Teaching and Learning Language. We have this newly created section, and a lot of this is Venerable Bodhi's teaching of the Garen Karunatilaka book, which you see here in the middle, which is being called Pali Level 2. And this is, I believe, the entire book. He covered the entire book. So you can either review, or you could hear his lectures on these chapters, which I'm sure are much better than mine, if you want somewhat of a review, or I strongly encourage you to continue your study by listening to these audio lectures. I think they're only audio. And there's even more, because there's so many, he's given so many and recorded so many, that after you finish the book, you can go on to his teachings on short suttas of the Samyutta Nikaya. And so this class and this website is all, in a way, leading up to, I wanted to mention that Venerable Bodhi has a new Pali language book that will be coming out, I believe in December, published by Wisdom Publications, his normal publisher, about Pali and Pali grammar and how to translate Pali. And so if you have started this summer and you continue on through GARE this fall, by the time his book is released in December, you'll be in a very good position to take advantage of that wonderful new resource. And so it's a kind of a very exciting time for Pali study, where this major new textbook will be released to the world. And so that's what I have to say about Pali study. And I appreciate all of your hard work. And I understand how hard it is. Because if you do go to some of these recorded classes, you might very well hear me making all kinds of horrible mistakes and probably very embarrassing mistakes. And so I think just to finish off this section of this classes, I'd like to do for us a quick verses of merit, which I can recite for you in Pali. And you can see it here, hopefully, in English and Chinese. This is a traditional Pali text. I have a hand from Jillian. Jillian?
Yes. No, sorry. That was, I moved my chair. I did not want to speak. Sorry.
Okay. All right. So then I will now like to share these for any good merit that we might have incurred by teaching and studying Pali, and of course studying Dhamma, because studying Pali is studying Dhamma. We hope we can have accumulated some merit, and we can now share this merit. Akasata cha bhumata deva naga mahedika punyang tang adumoditva chirang rakantu sasanang. Akasata cha bhumata deva naga mahedika punyang tang adumoditva chirang rakantu desanang. Akasata cha bhumata deva naga mahedika punyang tang adumoditva chirang rakantu mang parang. Etavata cha anghehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Etavata cha amhehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampati siddhya. Etavata cha anghehi sampadang punya sampadang sabbe sata anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Bhava gupadaya avici hetato et antere satakai upapana rupya rupicha asanya sannino dukkha pamuchantu pusantu nibbute. Sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu.
Okay, thank you all so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Stephen.
Stephen, it was great.
That was great.
Keep
Really
at it.
Wonderful.
Don't stop.
Wonderful.
You will.
Okay, bye now.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Everyone.